Just so we can clear this up right off the bat, no, this is not clickbait. These are the exact objective numbers that my athlete had when working with me using GPS. And if you're still wondering why you should listen to me, my name is Matt Stigler. I'm a pro footballer performance coach, and I have also got athletes results like this and like this through my programs. Now, speed is one of the most important attributes that a footballer can have. Just ask Jurgen Klopp.
Before you sign a play, you get a few informations. One of them is the speed.
In this video, I'm gonna go over some of what we did for lifting, plyometrics, and speed training to get my athlete these results. Because when we think about getting faster, we need to understand that all three of these things are directly connected to you getting the best possible results on the pitch. So for lifting, I'm going to go over density sets. And this is not how you have probably done density sets in the past, if you've done them at all. This is going to be a way that you can use them so that you can get faster and stronger at the same time.
Go back to the gym, work, because you have more to show.
For plyometrics, I'm going to explain how you can use the approach progression method so that you can get the best results. And for sprinting, I'm going to explain what is probably the easiest and best hack for getting faster quickly. So listen, if any of this interests you, please make sure to like the video, subscribe, and support the channel in any way so that I can continue to bring you guys these videos. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's first get into the density set portion. Now, density sets are one of the best things that footballers can do to get faster on the pitch, and here is why. Now, density sets are a form of auto-regulation, and auto-regulation is essentially a fancy way of saying that we're gonna train at our maximum given level for that day. In other words, it's just a great way to make sure that we do not overtrain. And if we do not overtrain while still getting a good strength stimulus, that is a perfect recipe for being fresh and athletic on the pitch and on the track. Now, there are three things we need to decide on when we are deciding how we're going to do density sets. We need to first pick a total time, then we need to pick a RPE, and then we need to pick a percent of our 1 rep max. Now, when it comes to just starting out with density sets, in general, you want to start with a lower time, you want to start with a lower RPE, and then you want to start with a mid to high percent of your 1 rep max. So what you can do if this is your very first time is you can do 8 minutes total at a RPE of 7, and you can do this at 85% of your 1 rep max. So let's use the example of a squat. If you squat 300 pounds, you would take 300, you would multiply it by 0.85, and then you would get 255 pounds that you would put on the bar. You would then set a timer, unrack the bar, and then you would do as many reps as you could until you hit a RPE of 7. RPE 7 is where the bar is definitely going to be moving a bit slower, but you aren't grinding out any reps. The reps are still heavy. And for those of you that may be confused right now, I'm gonna show you a perfect example of what I did with a 8-minute density set the other day with the exact numbers right here. And if this is your first time doing density sets, it doesn't have to be perfect. Probably the first like 2 to 3 times you do it, you may be a little bit off, and that's perfectly fine. But eventually you're gonna have this perfectly down. You're gonna have a very good sense for what your body can handle and a better sense of the RPE scale, and then you're gonna see tremendous benefits. Now, if you wanna have pro level speed, you need to make sure that you are doing the absolute best plyometric training. Just going out there and doing box jumps and ankle pogos for years on end is just not gonna help you. So I'm gonna take you through the approach progression method that I came up with. Now, to be completely clear, I did not come up with approach plyometrics in general. I just have not seen anyone progress approach plyometrics this way in a single session. So for now, I'm gonna claim it, but maybe someone else has done it before. I don't know. And a big disclaimer, before you do these plyometrics, you need to make sure that you are warmed up because these are very fast ground contacts, and we need to make sure that the lower body is ready for them. Now, this method works so well because it is essentially a way to trick our body into moving as fast as it possibly can. So often with plyometrics, it takes a few sets before we really get to our fastest repetitions, and this really just wastes time and it wastes energy that could be better used actually getting faster. So this is how you fix that. Now, for this example, we are going to be using 40-yard forward bounds. And the entire goal of this exercise is to bound 40 yards in as few steps as you possibly can. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 4 sets, and then each set is actually going to get a little bit harder. So for set number 1, you're going to run 10 yards at 75% of your max speed, and then you are going to bound for 40 yards directly into that. So you have a 10-yard approach without stopping, then you go and bound. So that speed that you built up from running will carry you, that momentum will carry you into your bound so that you can do your very first set at your max potential. Then set number 2, you will run for 5 yards at 50% of your max speed, then go into the bound. For set 3, you will do a 3-step approach and then bound. And for set 4, you guessed it, you're just just gonna stand there, you're not gonna move at all, and then you're going to bound. Now, I would do this type of approach plyometric training after sprinting. And the reason for that is because once you are warmed up, you want to go from your fastest exercises into your slowest ones. And despite the fact that this is a way to really make your plyometrics as fast as possible, there is no plyometric exercise out there that's going to be as fast as sprinting. Now, for the king of all things speed training, we have sprinting. Now, I've talked about sprint mechanics a lot in the past, but I've never talked about this. And the main reason for it is because I just haven't really felt like I've had a good, clear way to communicate it yet. It is quite difficult and complex to understand, but what I can tell you is I can 100% guarantee you that this will make you faster. And I'm not saying that in an exaggerated way. Like, I can 100% guarantee if you can get this down and you weren't doing it before, you will be a faster footballer. As clickbaity as that sounds. So listen, we all know the best way to be as fast as possible is to spend as little time on the ground as possible, because the ground creates friction and friction slows us down. In a perfect world, maybe I'd be making this video about a tutorial of how to fly, because that would be infinitely faster than sprinting, but here we are. So how do we spend the least time on the ground as we possibly can? The answer is striking the foot directly beneath you, but wait. I preach that all the time, but some of you still can't do it, or at the very least could do it better. It's not a lack of knowing, it's not even a lack of doing the running mechanics drills. So what's the problem? The problem is a lack of hip extension. If we are running and we cannot extend that hip back behind us, then we are going to strike the foot in front of us. And if we strike the foot in front of us, we're going to hit the ground with our foot, and we're gonna have to actively pull our entire body over the foot before we transition into the next step. And that is a recipe for an incredibly slow footballer, like some may say Harry Maguire. No disrespect, he's been way better lately. So if A walks and A marches aren't working for you, what will? I'm gonna give you 3 exercises that you can do today to make yourself a faster footballer. First up is going to be a single leg glute bridge with hip extension yielding iso. This exercise is going to set the pelvis in place so we can make sure that we are getting that hip extension from the actual hip. And by doing that, we are making sure that we are extending the hip from the glutes majoritively over just the low back. And we need to do this exercise first because this is our passive mobility. It's not stressful enough that this is going to actually elicit any changes that stick with you for a long period of time, but you do this to open up extra range of motion at the hip for your PNF and your strength work, which we're gonna get into. Now, exercise number 2 is going to be a quadruped hip extension PNF exercise. Now, PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, and that's just a fancy way of saying that, hey, I wanna get my mobility changes to actually stick with me for more than 5 minutes. I'm kidding, but it is a way to get us to contract our muscles at an end range of motion, signaling to the central nervous system that this is a safe position for us to be in. And because it is a safe position for us to be in, it teaches our body to hold on to those changes for a little bit longer. And for that exercise, you're going to start by pushing that foot down for 5 seconds as hard as you possibly can, trying to feel more hip flexor than quad. Then you're going to lift it off as high as you possibly can for 5 seconds, trying to feel more glute than low back. You want to elevate the back foot onto something as high as you possibly can without feeling low back as you lift off. That's how you're gonna know that you're pushing the range of motion to the perfect amount. Then you are going to repeat this 5 times each side. Lastly, you want to do a wall reference split squat, and here's what you're gonna do. This is going to teach us how to get into a proper split stance just like we are when we're sprinting, but because you have that wall reference, you have something to actively push that foot against as you do the movement, and that is going to teach us to properly extend the hip. Now, because we're standing, we can actually load this exercise up, we can hold on to weights, we can do overcoming isometrics, we can do a whole bunch of different things that really get these changes to stick for as long as possible. Then, and only then, can you do the A walks, the A marches, the A switches, and get those mobility changes to stick with you from the first 3 exercises into the faster ones. And then you are a faster footballer before you even know it. I hope this was helpful, everyone. I do train footballers all across the world online for anybody who is interested. I work with people one-on-one. I have pre-made programs made for people. I will link all of those below for anyone who is interested, but otherwise, I'm gonna keep these videos coming for you. So please let me know what you want to see in the comments below, but otherwise, I will see you guys next time.